It is Friday, January 24th, 7:17 p.m. In Chicago. And it's another video diary. These are going to take themes. This one we're talking about the 10 people I have listened to most in my life, whether that's music or podcasts or talking, lectures, just people who I have consumed information from. These are the 10 that stuck out to me as the most time spent listening. And I think this is important because it dictates how you think, and the combination of everything you listen to and hear creates a good image of how you approach the world, I believe. And listen means intently choose to listen to what they're saying, because you, one, connect with a lot of what they're saying, find them logical / agree with what they're saying, or agree with their perspective on something even if you disagree, can understand their perspective on something even if you disagree. So let's get into it. This is mixed between music and just lecturers. I initially thought of rappers that I listen to a lot, that I listen to songs on repeat or albums on repeat. And the first couple that came to mind were Kendrick Lamar and Eminem. Kendrick, from his K-Dot mixtape to his, what was the mixtape where he only raps on Carter 3 beats, on Lil Wayne beats? C4, I think it was called C4. And it was just an homage to Lil Wayne, which is crazy to think about now, the Lil Wayne being somewhat upset, or at least not giving Kendrick his flowers for the Super Bowl, but also being kind of disappointed that he didn't get it. That whole narrative is interesting because of the fact that this C4 mixtape from Kendrick Lamar exists. Anyway, and then there's Overly Dedicated, which is his first full-length project on Spotify, whatever that means, because mixtapes, albums, official drops with labels, this and that. There's a distinct categorizations that I don't really care about, to be honest with you. For me, it's just a work of music, like a project of songs that you thought of, wrote down to beats, whether it's old beats, other beats that you use from other people, or you had your own custom beats made. It's Section 80 and Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly are all projects to me. And I view it as projects. I don't care if it's a mixtape or album. That'll come into play in later people that I talk about as well. But yeah, Overly Dedicated, insane. Hard Part 4 is on that one. Or no, Hard Part 2. Hard Part 4. Anyway, the one where he goes crazy and spits until he loses his breath, and it intros with that skit of the dude just saying, without music, what would I do? I listen to music all the time. Just that one is such a classic. And we're just going to move on to Section 80. These are all albums I listened to top to bottom several times. Some of them was a very long time. The mixtapes, the pre-label albums, Section 80, and projects, Section 80, and Overly Dedicated. And then Good Kid, Mad City, listen to that over and over and over again. Memorized probably the first 7 songs, top to bottom. No hate against the last few songs of the album, but when I put it on an album, it's more likely that I'm not going to get to the last songs, so they become less memorized, I guess, in this situation. Also, I do think just objectively, I enjoy the first 6 or 7 of the tracks on Good Kid, Mad City better than the closing 3 or 4. And then To Pimp a Butterfly, classic. That one, honestly, is probably one of my least listened to Kendrick albums, as well as Damn, which is interesting because I know a lot of people put those as potentially his first top 2 albums. I think they're unique and dope for different reasons. I think Damn has a lot more re-listenable songs. To Pimp a Butterfly is like a book that is a classic that you need to read once and revisit every certain amount of time. And there are a couple songs where it's repeat, but it's more like a let it sit type of album to me. I don't know, to me, and I could put it on at any point on any plane flight. It's always amongst consideration, but that's just how I feel amidst the entire catalog, which I've listened to so many times. Damn, again, great album. Less top to bottom listens for that one than others. I've listened to it maybe a handful of times, and then Mr. Morale, I listened to a few times as well, probably similar to Damn and To Pimp a Butterfly, but that one, it got all of its play within its first month or two of its drop. And then this latest album, I played Man at the Garden on loop for like a day straight once. Still listen to it regularly. The whole album I've listened to a couple times, but Man at the Garden is the one for me for that album. And this is just becoming a whole Kendrick Lamar video. So let's move on to Eminem. Cheers, by the way. I got this IPA of some sort. And I was just at Kaiser Tiger, which is a dope bar in Chicago in West Loop. Crazy burger. And got a beer there as well. So we're feeling good. The voice is still crispy from the live stream I did earlier today. It was about maybe hour 10, hour 15. But anyway, Eminem is the next guy on my list. This list is going to go very different directions, and we're going to come back to hip hop, in and out of hip hop and people who talk, just a heads up. But Eminem, I mean, Lose Yourself is what got me to really see rap and hip hop as a genre of music that I wanted to look into. And as crazy as that sounds, and as white as that sounds, to be frank, I didn't really, besides Kanye, old school Kanye, I didn't really vibe with hip hop like that. I was a Guitar Hero nerd that loved rock music and was like, oh, hip hop, like it's not, I didn't mess with the radio hip hop that was on back then. And honestly, I still kind of don't mess with the radio hip hop a lot of the time. So that hasn't changed. My exposure to it was not nearly what it needed to be when I was younger. So Lose Yourself was just hit in a crazy way. I saw the movie. It played everywhere all the time. And then got into, Eminem's albums, got into battle rap. I always loved watching Wayne Brady on Whose Line, and just Whose Line in general, but Wayne Brady freestyling. And then it's like Freestyle Love Supreme with Lin-Manuel Miranda. That's just how I got into hip hop, basically rap. Early Kanye, Lose Yourself was like the key, the door opening. Kanye I still listen to, but to really dive into hip hop, it was like YouTube rabbit holes of rap battles, Eminem verses, every verse that he had at the time. How old would I have been? Maybe like 2005, 6, 10 to 12 years old, maybe 13, late middle school, early high school. And then from there, it goes into J. Cole, which he's also on the list. And this is no order. So since I mentioned J. Cole, I'll just bring him up here since it's like the whole getting into hip hop arc that we're going into with Eminem. J. Cole was after Eminem, the one I like really binged. Friday Night Lights, The Warm Up, any verse I could find from him, The Come Up, all of his songs basically on the mixtapes and all of his verses. Anything he put out, I would follow and listen to. Same with Eminem, all his freestyles, radio freestyles, all his albums, his Infinite mixtape or album. I don't know, is that considered an album? Before Slim Shady LP, the Infinite, the mixtape. Let's just say project. We've been saying project. The project that has Infinite, the track on it, and a whole bunch of other just insane, like just barring out on crazy cadences and rhyme schemes type energy on Infinite. Slim Shady LP brought out like the craziness. I actually listened to Marshall Mathers LP and Eminem Show first. Those were the two that really brought me in. I then have listened to Slim Shady LP countless times. There are some skips on all of them, honestly. I don't like listening to Kim, for example, on Marshall Mathers LP. The song Marshall Mathers itself is extremely dope, and I actually have it memorized, but that's not something I'd like to put on anymore. I remember this one moment with a gay roommate that I had in college, and that song was just playing like as part of the album, and I just realized how many times he said the F word, like the homophobic F word, and I was like, oh my goodness. And not that, people said it back then. I'm not excusing it, but I'm also not just like demonizing Eminem for it either. But it's just that song just makes me remember that moment of noticing him, notice how many times he said it, and it's just a song that reminds me of that. I was like, but before that moment, I had that shit memorized. So, it's a love-hate relationship with that song. But Eminem show, cleaning out my closet, Superman, Marshall Mathers LP, Drug Ballad, on Encore and Relapse, just insanely amazing tracks. I'm just gonna pull up Spotify at this point. Like, why not? This is gonna be way more than a 7 to 10 minute video already. So I'm just gonna go deep. Going deep. Who was it who told me to make a podcast? My man Christian Hansen, I think, maybe. Swedish flag emojis on the comments regularly. Shouts out to you. You had said that you would love to see a podcast from yours truly, and I think this is becoming that. This recording is becoming that. The first full-length episode, guys, of the Concast. Or the iKaanic. These are all names that I've had for years. I used to do basketball podcasts on the regular. The Bench Mob NBA, Bullish Hoops, and a Turkish one, Muhabbet Basket, if anyone remembers or knows about that in my life. But that is a huge tangent. I was pulling up Eminem's Spotify. Top song, Without Me, is crazy. Real Slim Shady being number 2. Actually, no, that's not crazy. I thought it was Till I Collapse for a second. But no, Without Me makes sense. Real Slim Shady makes sense. Lose Yourself is behind Without Me. Wow. I would not have guessed that. Spotify wasn't out when these albums and stuff came out. So that also skews things. I feel like if Spotify was available when Lose Yourself first came out, all those streams. But then again, Without Me, you could say the same thing. But Without Me's been out for less time than Lose Yourself overall. So anyway, all these songs I know by heart. Mockingbird. Houdini, not really. And this is not an old M versus new M discussion. This is about how much respect I have for Eminem and how he got me in the hip hop door and how much time I have spent of my life listening to his lyrics. But I will say 95+% of that entire time has been Eminem Show, Marshall Mathers LP, Encore, Slim Shady LP, Infinite, probably Relapse after that, and the rest is all kind of combined. I did listen to Recovery more than others. I did listen to, on the Marshall Mathers LP 2, there's a song called Bad Guy, the first song on the album, actually. The hook is so sick. The premise is sick, too. But yeah, after that, I haven't really listened to Eminem, really. And that's no hate. That's just me. Since we got Spotify up, man, I'm going to check which Kendrick songs are the top listened to Kendrick songs. 1.9 million on the Black Panther album with SZA. Not Like Us, 1.9 billion. Yeah, that's what I said. Not Like Us, 1 billion. And the rest, I guess these are more recent plays, because there's no way that his newest album is on a higher level than Good Kid, Mad City or To Pimp a Butterfly. Or I guess that's the thing. Kendrick has way more top to bottom repeats, from the start of his career until now. He has never really missed to a large degree. Maybe a track or two here and there, but that's crazy. Mixtape to now, no real slump, no real miss on the resume is insane. And say what you want to say, but I stand by that statement, man. Anyway, Eminem we talked about. J. Cole, early mixtapes, before his Sideline Story. I binged that so much. And then to be honest, like my friends were kind of haters of J. Cole. There's a lot of haters of J. Cole. I'm not gonna lie. So I don't know if I let them affect me or also it kind of coincided with me listening to other people a lot more. But Sideline Story I listened to a lot. Born Sinner I probably listened to the most out of any of the early albums after the mixtape. 2014 Forest Hill Drive is dope, and there's no hate on my end for it. It just didn't get the play from me as much as the mixtapes and even the off season I've played more than Forest Hills Drive. Born Sinner I definitely did. Sideline Story probably more than Forest Hills Drive, and then Forest Hill Drive would come. So probably Friday Night Lights, Warm Up, the Come Up, and Born Sinner and is probably tied, and then Sideline Story, and then Forest Hills Drive. That's crazy. Just it's only crazy because of the widespread love of Forest Hills Drive, and I didn't even put the off season, which the off season is probably ahead of both Born Sinner and Sideline Story. Yeah, off season might be the most listened to album of mine. And then I also fuck with For Your Eyes Only. KOD I haven't listened to too much. So like he's also been fairly consistent, to be honest. Like he's always every drop he has multiple tracks that are amazing and have crazy verses or you'd want to just put on repeat. And to me that's important too. You don't need the top to bottom album to be repeat worthy every single time. And you're not going to have that generally anyway. I think Kendrick might be the closest to anyone to having that, at least from my list of rappers I listen to. But J. Cole actually, because his new shit is fire. Might Delete Later is nasty. I've run that top to bottom. Even D-Day with Dreamville, just his influence and that crew, his label, creating that album. That album was sick. I was listening to that in 2022 on the Energy Exchange. It was going crazy. So, J. Cole, also on this list for sure. Next, I guess let's finish out the rappers. We'll finish out the rappers and then we'll get into the more talking people that I've listened to. Harry Mack, at this point, has to be. Past 4 years, it's literally been my job to watch his footage and to rate it and rank it. Not rate it, but like rank it / create copy for it, post it, make sure it's shared, understand which ones are best for repurposing and reposting schedules from all the different series. And even before that, I was listening to him a lot. His streams, I would tune into his Gorilla Bars. Anything he would drop, I would definitely watch it once, if not more. And, you know, I got lucky and it became something that I've now made a career out of. And I still listen to him all the time, more than anyone else. It has to be. So he's definitely on this list. And not only because of the job and because of me liking watching the freestyles and stuff, but like what he's about, who he is as a person, the self-improvement, the resilience, the practice, like everything he preaches, being kind, non-judgmental, all these things. He's just a good guy, amazing rapper, and insanely entertaining, and a good friend at this point of mine. So shout out Harry. He had to make this list. And then the last rapper here, Andre, 3K. He doesn't even have albums like to himself. But he specifically, and Big Boy doesn't even make it, is the thing. Like, I have playlists of all of Andre's features. Many, many times when I repeat songs or verses, I just skip to the Andre verse to either memorize it, listen to it, or whatever. Shouts out 16 with Rick Ross. And he had this crazy song with a feature on, like, a Kesha song that his feature goes crazy. Devin the Dude. What track is that? Oh, fuck. What was the track? He features on a Devin the Dude track, and it goes crazy. His random song, Chroma Cope. I'm pulling my playlist up, guys. I have to. Because he has some crazy songs and features. And it's so dope to listen to just them back to back. If I'm like have access to my phone, I'll skip to his verse. If not, you know, I'll just listen to the track. In a Tidal Wave of Mystery by Capital Cities. That's the album. In a Tidal Wave of Mystery by the artist Capital Cities. The song Farrah Fawcett Hair goes crazy. Check that song out, Farrah Fawcett Hair. And then there's another one that's like also maybe you're not aware of. I can't find it. Anyway, Farrah Fawcett Hair. Check that song out. There was one called like Chromacopia or something. I can't seem to find it, but that's fine. You can look it up. Just type in Andre and Chrome, and it'll come up. His verse on "Take Care," the song "The Real Her" with Lil Wayne. I forgot Lil Wayne feature on that. Crazy verse. Royal Flush with Big Boy and Raekwon. For one of the only tracks with him and Big Boy on it after Outkast in '08. Crazy feature. And yeah, man, just check out every single feature from Andre. You will not be disappointed. I'm not even talking about every single one of them. All his verses, obviously, on his albums, Outkast albums, go crazy. And I can't not mention the T.I. Song Sorry, the T.I. feature on Trouble Man Heavy is the Head album by T.I. The song is Sorry. His feature on that is crazy. If he appears on podcasts, I'm listening to it. I've probably listened to anything that he's been on. I did listen to his Flute album. It's a good background ambient music type situation, not something that I like have repeated or anything. And besides, the words make the difference to me a lot of the time. Like, music is beautiful and I love it, and just the instrumentals necessary and amazing, and I would not trade them in for the world. But for me, the language, man, what you're saying and how it rhymes and how it sounds on the beat is so crucial. And before we move from Andre, I have to mention Pink Matter on Channel Orange. Come on. I'm just going down memory lane with these features that I'm looking up. Yeah, Andre 3K, just insane. Do yourself a favor and listen to every single one of his features at some point. All right, let's say musical, but not necessarily rap. Reggie Watts is another top 10 person. So we're on number 6 right now. This is not in order. I don't know what the order would be, to be honest. But this is not in order. However, Reggie Watts is on there. I've watched every single one of his YouTube videos. Anything he's on, basically. I think there might be some things he's on, like some radio sets or some random things on YouTube. But I've watched them all. On his channel, he has like these skits. So dope. His Netflix special is what got me into him. Any of his TED Talks or TED Talk-esque type environment performances where he's performing at like Google headquarters or a college or an event, this and that. I've listened and watched so much Reggie Watts. The improvisation, the vocal skill set, the linguistic agility that he has, and his ability to like fake talk so many different languages in different accents. He could go a whole set changing accents and you would not know what his actual voice is if he wanted to. If he wanted to make you think that, to make you doubt what his real voice is, he could literally go a whole set, not ever use his real voice, and you would think that at least one of them was his. If he told you beforehand, he was like, one of this is mine, and he does a whole set changing up accents and never uses his own, you would be like, oh man, at least 2 or 3 like is probably it. That's how crazy he is. His vocals is crazy. His loop skill set is insane. His music history knowledge. I went to a show, a live like book talk thing. I actually have a Reggie Watts. They gave a book to everyone who went to that in Chicago last year. It was super dope. They just kind of talked about the book, and it's a memoir or whatever. And then afterwards, he did like a 3-4 song set, which was so epic. But yeah, his improv, like, he inspires creativity and pushes boundaries of what you can feel comfortable doing without caring about anyone's judgment. Just be you, be unique. Reggie Watts, shouts out, man. All right, now we're getting into talking, which this might be an interesting. There's how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 people. That's mainly just talking, knowledge, influence, or just I respect their opinions on important topics of the world. Gary V, man. Gary V has to be on this list. 2016-ish. I found him on a Pure Sweat podcast. I would be listening to crazy amounts of basketball podcasts. Interestingly enough, I don't think any one of those people are on this list, at least in terms of lasting impact. Maybe quantity of hours, they might be closer than I might think to some of these people, like Zach Lowe, or who else did I listen to a whole bunch of? Listen to Dunked On, but probably not as much to get on this type of list. For me, Bill Simmons, I listen to a lot of his podcasts just for the fun of it. Like I love how he just like says, he's probably the 6th best player of all time, or in the top, he's a top 6 player of all time. Like top and an obscure number here instead of saying he's the number best player of all time, but he would also just say the number as well, just very confidently. That always stuck out to me. It was always interesting. But to just keep up with NBA, basically, I would listen to Bill Simmons. A lot of NBA podcasts, basically. But yeah, no one that like stuck out from a impacted my life type situation, although the collective of it did inspire me to do a lot of NBA stuff on my own. So shout out to the NBA and all the NBA podcasters that aren't making this list for me personally right now. Or maybe ever, but the impact collectively is definitely would be one item on this, because every single one of these people that I'm listing right now had an impact on me, mentally and like inspirationally, and if there was a bullet for all NBA podcasters combined, facts. Anyway, Gary V, marketing, everything I do for Harry has been influenced by my obsessive listening to Gary V from 2016 to like 2019 or 2020. Definitely still listen to him, but it was just like every day I would listen to him. Especially in my last job that I was at, that I wanted to leave, my last 2 jobs. He was big in giving me the belief or permission that I could do what I want to do outside of the corporate arena. And it's crazy. Yeah, it really is. Like, to listening to him almost gave me permission or made me feel like I can go do whatever the fuck I want to do because I believed in myself. And the belief in myself was there, but the trust that I could do something, given the skill sets I developed while listening to him, was highly influenced by Gary. So shout out Gary. I had met him at a Green Street Festival that Harry performed at, which kind of became full circle because I was doing like what Gary V preaches for Harry, and I still do a lot. Although at this point I feel like a pro myself, who can talk in depth as much as I don't want to say as much as Gary can, but to the point where I don't necessarily watch his informational videos and learn that much anymore. That's not me being cocky. That's just me being a student of his. So now my eyes and ears are on very similar things. Obviously, he's at a different scale in everything that he does, but it's cool to be on my path where I know where to look and what to study and what to do, to get to places and insights that he is giving out to people as new content and new information, which has been really cool to see that development with regards to like me listening to Gary V. The last few people, cheers. Terrence McKenna, if anyone knows who that is. He's big into spirituality, the oneness, just logic. He's a big shrooms and DMT guy, and he just talks about the insights that he has garnered garnered from information he's been divulged on these many trips that he's been on. But the thing is though, like that sounds insane and crazy to listen to. However, his use of the English language is truly unparalleled. It's on a different level. The way he talks about anthropology, human connection, and human priorities in the 90s, and how relevant every single thing he says is to things that we consider new age today, that he was just like spewing matter of factly, not spewing, but like talking about matter of factly, like this is happening and it already has happened in terms of like the internet connection, virtual reality. Anyone who has gone through, these psychedelic type therapy sessions, all the studies that like prove that you can get over addiction and this and that. He's been talking about all that stuff. And yeah, man, Terrence McKenna, he's just a spiritual being, really. He just has information flowing through him in a way that no one else really does. So he's a calming energy. It makes you feel like everything's fine and all right when he's talking about things. Not fine and all right, but just like that they make sense. Nothing is surprising to him because existence itself is the reality that he perceives and discusses. And obviously, he feels that there's certain things that could be different, but doesn't expect it to not exist. He just lets things exist and talks about it through that with an insane English. Anyway, that's enough on Terrence McKenna. I feel like you just gotta listen to him. I can't really do him justice if you've never heard of him. So next two which one should I go to? On a similar front to Terrence McKenna, Alan Watts, also a very spiritual, philosophical speaker who has just lectures upon lectures upon lectures, hours of just him talking about life, existence, questions, love, hate, confidence, insecurities, just things, emotions, and things that humans go through. He'll talk about it. The oneness of everything, the it is what it is nature of the world and the universe. And he'll go into religion and why people think the way they think. Yeah, so Alan Watts is also an amazing listen, a calming energy as well. A little less drug heavy, not a little less, a lot less drug heavy than Terrence McKenna, although he does tap into psychedelics and religion a little bit. Definitely isn't almost informed by those experiences as much as Terrence McKenna, at least in the way he divulges the information. I don't know how much drugs or psychedelics Alan Watts has done. I'm sure it's not zero, but that's neither here nor there. It might be zero. I honestly, now I'm curious because I feel like I should know that. But the way he talks about it, it feels like he has experimented. But I can't tell you for sure that he has done this or that. Anyway, Esther Perel is the last person on the list, number 10. Although I don't know what the order is. She was the outlier. Relationships, just not just romantic relationships, but relationships as a whole. Friendships, parental relationships. She's a psychotherapist. She's probably the best mind in the world at studying romantic relationships, which are so informed by familial relationships with your family, that it's also the same thing, which also relates to friendships. I think she's just an amazing reader of the transfer of energy between two people and why someone may or may not think certain things and why they might react or not react towards the actions of others. And this is something more recent entrance into my ears, I guess. But and so therefore maybe total quantity might be somewhat lower than anyone on this list, but impact on my life is already being felt, and I still listen to anything that she puts out, and I probably will continue to for a long time relationships. The quality of your relationships determines the quality of your life. That's a quote that she goes to many, many times, and it's one that I fully believe in and have leaned on recently. So I'm gonna do one more 11. This is not a person or not human per se. Oh man, y'all might think I'm crazy, but this is more recent this year. It's definitely not close in terms of quantity of hours, but I think he might get there. Him and Alan Watts right now are reigning heavy for me, to be honest. But Bashar, extraterrestrial channeling through a man named Daryl Anka. The way he talks about the world, about spirit, soul, how you move through life, emotions, decisions, whether or not you believe in the whole channeling and extraterrestrial mind situation, the things he says and how he talks, true so many things hold for at least my life. If I like retroactively applying the things he's saying, I can explain so much, if not all of everything that's happened in my life in a way that eases my mind and also in a way that influences decisions that I'm making in the future just to see if it's still true, if it still holds. Like it applies to so much of my life to this point that it has started to make me believe that if I apply it moving forward, results that make sense could happen. Does that make sense? So shouts out Bashar. Just Google Bashar channeling. Y'all might think he's a lunatic. I can't even blame you if you do. It is kind of out there, but I fuck with it. I don't know. Like I'm gonna say, I believe it to a degree. I believe in the energy's positivity and the energy's efficacy. Let's say it's highly accurate. Things he says to how the world seems to work in my eyes. So I'm going to shout him out at 11. And man, what were we at? 37 minutes? Top 10 people I listen to? Let me know what y'all think of this, man. This is long as hell, but I like doing it. A couple beers deep too, so the words are just flowing. But until next time, cheers.